It's important.
Hey, oh my, the music's still going. There we go. How's everyone's Saturday? Y'all prepared for a 2-hour argument?
Super prepared.
Because that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, normally these are us three acting smart, sounding like we know what we're talking about, and teaching you about something. And that's great and fun. And, some people kind of feel like, we just kind of sit there and listen on those. They don't want to type because we're talking. And, it's like being in a lecture. It's almost rude to them. You don't have to be like that. Chat. Use the chat as much as you can. We're cool with it. We'll read what we can. We'll keep talking. But yeah, use it. But this one, we're off script. We're off rails. We have no idea where this talk is going to go.
Wait, hold on. We had rails?
We did have rails. we've had the semblance of rails in the past. This one, there's no rails. I have no idea where this is going to end. I don't even fully know what the answer to this is. It's going to be a debate. Should be fun. We're probably going to disagree on a bunch of stuff, and then you guys can tell us what you think, because we really want to know. This is important in this one.
Yeah, because as it turns out, there is no standards committee for defining game genres.
Yeah. And this isn't even a
thing.
genre. It's actually more of what we would call a tag. It's really part of the action RPG genre.
Yeah, they are without a doubt action RPG games.
So let's put that first and foremost at the top. Okay, here, let's minimize or maximize, not minimize, maximize. Get you over here. No, I want you on the half. Thank you, Windows. Yeah, you can give me that one over there. Got it. Yeah, go away. What is Souls like? We're gonna blow the hell out of this one. Oh, we can just zoom in on this. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and then it'll always be set. Now I don't have to keep this zoom at something ridiculous. 200% seems good. That's at 11 font. Let's blow it up to 24 font. We can take this back down to like a 16. I think a 16 should be fine. We're going to put the facts. Souls-like is. Souls-like isn't. Yeah?
Yeah. I guess we should also clarify that we're not specifically trying to define the genre here. We're just trying to identify key elements of what is making a Souls-like game versus what people have been associating with other games for what they feel like is a Souls-like game, but is actually broader mechanics that are being used.
Yes. Games that are Souls-like. Games that are not Souls-like. This will help us sort of define things. Yes. Ong bak. You're cruising through Dark Souls. Awesome to hear, Space Ghost. They're not that hard once you get used to them. Until you get to Ornstein and Smog.
Does one really cruise through Dark Souls? Is that like cruising through Mordor?
I'm punching my way through it.
cruising through Lordran, looking for souls.
Yeah. So Souls-like is we're gonna throw in exactly what I said. Action RPG. If it's not an action RPG, if it doesn't fall into that, then it can't be Souls-like. Do we agree?
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Then that means instantly, games that are not Souls-like are Sekiro, because it's not an action RPG, and Jedi Fallen Order, not an action RPG. Different games. Lords of the Fallen Souls-like.
They are definitely action games, but there's very minimal RPG elements. And I would say, yes, Lords of the Fallen is a Souls-like.
Clunky Souls, we used to call it.
It's very clunky, very heavy, very slow.
Unfortunately, not that fun.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was interesting to see somebody else take on the sort of Souls formula.
Yeah, nice.
I believe they were the first release that really nailed the formula in a 3D environment.
Other than the father. The original, yes. Yeah. The Surge Souls-like, the Surge is one of the games we definitely wanted to talk about because it brings up a lot of Souls-like elements that we think are essential to what a Souls-like really is.
Like I would say the Surge is probably a Souls-like. I would say that is probably an accurate comparison.
One of the things it has, and I haven't played Lord of the Fallen, I've watched it enough to get the gist of it, and I didn't want to do that to myself.
It's fine. It's a perfectly fine game.
Hey, Space Ghost with the host from coast to coast. Thanks, buddy.
The host with the most.
Well, that's Beetlejuice, my friend.
Yeah,
Space Ghost was coast to coast. But one of the key things of the Surge, which I'm actually wanting to play now because of this, that really should be considered core to Souls-like, is the Metroidvania level style. 3D interconnecting non-linear levels.
Which is something that was a key feature in both of the Surge games.
Yeah.
Although I would say that Surge 2 did a much better job.
You mean the development studio learned from the first one they made?
They sure did. They made a great game the second time.
It's almost like Souls-likes aren't easy to make.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah,
It's the
Go ahead.
Is the same developers that made Lords of the Fallen that made Surge 1 and 2?
I do not believe so. I believe they're different teams.
Same company, different teams.
The Surge
Same studio. Yeah.
was Deck 13, and Lords of the Fallen was CI Games and Deck 13. So they weren't the only developers on Lords of the Fallen.
Okay, so they worked on it, learned something from it, revamped their team. Nice to see. And yeah, you know what? It's really not an easy combat system to make. FromSoft has become the masters of it because they've spent years tuning one specific combat style. If you look back through all the games they made before that, they made like a dozen different styles of games. They were all over the place. And ever since Demon Souls came out, that's all the whole company has done. That it's like, okay, we're going to focus on this.
They've made 5 Souls-likes now.
Yeah, and after Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, they were like, we've kicked this combat system's ass, and then they made Sekiro and blew our goddamn minds. Not a Souls-like, but a must-play game.
Incredible game.
Okay, so we've got the action RPG, which is the RPG elements. We've got the 3D Metroidvania. I'm going to instantly put on here, difficulty does not make a Souls-like. And that's one of our biggest pet peeves. Just because your game's hard doesn't mean it's Souls-like.
A lot of people will compare any hard action RPG to Souls. That is their first instinct, or it's very common to say these days, "Oh, this is the Dark Souls of other game genre." That's kind of not how this works.
I think that started stemming out of just how different the combat system was, and that it's difficult for people to get used to it at first, right? Like that's why these games are difficult for me, because I'm not as experienced with playing them. But that's not really what defines them. They're not inherently difficult. It's just a different style of combat that I'm not used to. But once you're used to that style of combat and you start playing between the games, they're not really all too difficult anymore. The boss fights are indeed challenging, but there's a difference between challenging and difficult.
Apparently, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has taken the shoulder buttons for attacking. That is a trend that I can get behind.
Yep, I'm down with that.
It lets you manipulate the camera. And it turns out camera is really hard to do in 3D action games.
Yeah, so one of the examples right now, a good example, since we were just doing it, is my ONS fight that I've been trying to do fist only. There is no way I would be able to use camera lock on in that. I have to have my thumb on the camera all the time, trying to make sure I can see both of them in frame, because they both have attacks that they can do from far enough away from me that if I'm not looking, I will die. I have to be paying
and die
attention
very quickly.
very, very fast. Yeah, they don't take much to kill me. So if I was trying to go off of bumper or off of camera to hit attack all the time, there'd be just so many ways. Also, I'm moving camera while I'm attacking, doing the swing. You can change direction of the swing during swing as long as the final piece has, like, if you're winding up here and I change this way, he'll look this way and punch. He'll do it. I've had to do it before because Ornstein loves to do those little back steps all the time, driving me goddamn insane. You don't notice
He's a dodgy
those.
bastard.
You don't notice those until you start trying to punch them. Oh, those. I don't know where I was going with that now.
I don't know where you were going with that either. But I have another thing I would like to add to the Souls-like is list.
Yes.
And that's that they are fair. They are fair video games. The enemies operate under the same rules as you do, except for Dark Souls 2, and we don't talk about Dark Souls 2. It wasn't the same team.
Even then, they mostly do, except for one tiny fringe case.
Oh, the fringe case being any NPC invader that can actually just animation cancel whenever they want.
Yeah, the NPC invaders are the issue. I hate those guys. Especially the one that just ran away from me for 20 minutes healing himself, and then I slipped and died. That was when I stopped playing Dark Souls 2. That actually was. After that, I was like, no, sorry, game. You're done. I'm going to add on to that fair a little bit, just because people always hear the games are fair, and they're like, no, that killed me so fast. That's not fair. That's still fair.
That's perfectly fair.
What we mean by fair is that enemies have the same rules you do. You know, like Low or now Board has had the same thing happen, can attest to. Bosses can die from falling too. Yep. Just because you're a boss doesn't mean you can't fall off an edge and die. It can totally happen.
Ceaseless Discharge, Taurus Demon.
I've never gotten the Ceaseless Discharge. Never.
Really?
Every time.
Super easy.
Every time I try to do it, he ends up stopping part way and just launching fire at me until I die.
You can only do it the first time you enter his boss arena.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that the one time.
I don't know.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yep. They can also parry. They have the same abilities that you do.
Yep. You've seen that if you've been watching my runs. The rogues were parrying me all over the place. That was fun.
Yeah, and some of the enemies even have Estus Flask.
Yep.
The Baronic Knights, the Hollow Thieves, I think even like the base Hollow Soldiers, like not the ones that are like broken sword, but the ones that have an actual weapon.
Yep, they can as well. Like
those
the
ones that can heal.
The ones you encounter right away as you're climbing up the stairs to get into the first sewer passage into Undead Burg, and those types of hollows absolutely have Estus as well, yeah. Ashen Absolver.
Ashen, I'm on the fence about. Absolver, definitely not.
I don't know.
Absolver is a fighting game. It's just a 3D fighting game.
It's pretty fun though. But yeah, I would not say that it's Souls-like.
It sounds like it has no RPG element to it.
Not too much. It's kind of hard to describe, but like when you play the combat, it's very like dodge and parry orientated, especially because you're parrying like specific positions. So it's kind of like trying to counter what they're doing, given their tells. But it plays a lot differently than what a Souls-like would be. It's definitely just an action fighting game.
It has
some similar elements.
Have either of you played Ashen?
No.
Because I am unsure where I fall on Ashen. Ashen isn't. I've watched a bunch of Ashen gameplay, and I decided that this was not a game that I would enjoy. I would not enjoy this, so I didn't play it.
It's randomly generated, right?
Yes.
I say it's probably going to lack the 3D Metroidvania somewhat, since that's hard to RNG.
Well, I'm not saying that it's not a fantastic game. It's just not a game that I would enjoy. It's just not for me.
We're pretty particular on our games, and that's fine. It's
And-
really important to distinguish between things you like and things that are good, and be able to say that something you don't like is good and something you like is bad.
I don't know. It has a lot of Souls-like elements to it. It does have a fairly large degree of exploration. It has the same sort of gear system. It has, checkpoints and healing. Very, very similar to the Souls games. I don't know. I don't know what I think about Ashen.
I think we're kind of bringing up how we want to make it more like a tag rather than a genre. Because when you make a game named the genre, then you keep trying to fit any other game that's similar to it to the original game, which kind of becomes a problem.
Yep.
Similar to like how we have roguelikes, and if you compare modern roguelikes to the original roguelikes, they're not that similar. They have like a small subset of when you die, your character's dead. Sometimes there's a loop. But if you keep that genre name, you're always going to keep comparing it to Souls games, which is what we're doing right now with Ashen. It's like, oh, it isn't. But it's like, it's going to have similar elements, but that's just the similar elements from that overall genre of the action RPG. So we're trying to like narrow down what is Souls like, and I think that it's a bit too broad to incorporate those things as a Souls like. So I'd say
I put it
more on the fence for that.
I put it on the fence for now, and let's just continue to build our is and isn't list, and see where it starts to fall in after that. So one of the things I can instantly add to Souls-like is punishing, as in you lose almost everything on death. You lose all your experience, you lose all your money.
But being such a fair game, it allows you an opportunity to get it back.
Yes. I was going to include that as well, but you waylaid into it just fine. But I'm sure we can all agree that that is a core and fundamental principle. And death punishment is also reclaimable if you learn from mistake. Very, very core as well. So I'm not sure how Ashen falls into those, but yeah, if you're not being completely punished on death, so that instantly puts in Souls-like is not, and I've heard it said before, or other people try to make an argument for it, so I'm going to add it in. God of War 4 is not Souls-like. Period.
No, it is not. It has some Souls-ish elements to its combat system.
You can parry,
but it is not a Souls. It is not a Souls game.
No, it completely lacks RPG. It doesn't really have much of a Metroidvania. It's more of a branching level system.
Most definitely just action RPG.
Yeah.
Though on the harder difficulties, like I can still see why some of these tags are being assigned to some of these games, because like on the hard difficulty, the combat felt a little bit slower, a little bit more. I have to time my parries, my dodges, my blocks, but that's not what makes it a Souls game. Just because it's difficult and has a precise parry block system isn't Souls like it. It's similar to it because they'll have the same, but we have to make sure and kind of we're trying to define what it is to be Souls like, so we're not going to cast a giant kind of net of a genre tag and then kind of overshadow what actually makes a Souls game a Souls game.
Shadow of Mordor is an open world adventure game.
Yeah, they don't share too much. I enjoyed that game a lot. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on that. I really do enjoy the Shadow of Mordor games. I'm one of the people that I just love killing orcs. I can do it all day, almost every day. But it's definitely a lot different from the Souls series. There was a little time where I'm like, man, I'm getting wrecked here, and I'm gonna have to actually think and plan about this. Or I'm like, hey, what's going on in this area? What's this world I'm in? What are these items doing? What is this item description is going to lead me to somewhere that I can find, open up a shortcut somewhere, or, unlock a bit of history of what's going on, rather than it just automatically playing a cutscene or telling me as soon as I touch the item.
Okay, so one of the core things that I'm picking up in my experiences of Souls inspired by what you were just talking about, Pseudo, is that checkpoints are not given to the player. They're not just like handed to you. You know, you don't cross a boundary and they're like, hey, checkpoint. And you're not walking along like, hey, there's a fire right here. I mean, that'll happen once in a while. But most of the time, your checkpoint is based on you being observant and paying attention and finding that hidden path back to your original checkpoint.
Yep. The level design and the Metroidvania-ness of it is a very large part of being a Souls-like game.
Does that fully describe the Metroidvania, though?
Not entirely, I would say. A large portion of it is the level design. But there is also facets of like you pick up a new item and that gets you access to a new area, which is a very Metroidvania sort of concept.
Yep. Pookie's saying it encourages you to be thorough, which it definitely does. It rewards being thorough, rewards being observant.
It's definitely why I've
it doesn't have
had some trouble with the Dark Souls and Souls-like games, because I am definitely not as observant as I should be when playing them, and I definitely feel the punishment for that of like, I am just getting wrecked. I need to figure out what the hell is going on and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So everything we've been talking about has also been mechanical so far. And we've totally neglected to touch on the story sides. And how important is the story reveal to a Souls-like style? Can you have a more straightforward characters, interactive, and a standard narrative and still call it a Souls-like?
That's an interesting discussion to have, I think, because I would lean towards, yes, you could, but you would have to be very careful.
I would say that you can totally be Souls-like and still have a more straightforward character narrative, less hidden. I think that story style is less Souls-like and more FromSoft.
Yeah. That's just how FromSoft does things.
But it is my favorite thing about their games. Every time a FromSoft game comes out, I look forward to exploring their universe to find their story, because their lore is just so tasty and hidden.
Tasty lore.
And Pookie agrees. Pookie agrees with the story not being Souls-like and more being just FromSoft geniusness.
That's a good distinction to make too. Like, just because it's, you know, a FromSoft game doesn't mean it has to be a Souls-like. They can still have elements of things in their games that are not going to be defined as Souls-like, because, you know, other people will use similar structures, including FromSoft themselves, in different games that may not even be a Souls-like.
Such as like
Sekiro, one of our favorite games ever. It's just not a Souls-like game.
Are Souls-like?
It's just not.
The Surge is one of the Sultan Sanctuary. 100%.
Yes, definitely Sultan Sanctuary. Salty Sanctuary.
That's apt.
But like, it's Sultan, Codename Vane. Yes, that's another one, actually. I would say that Code Vein is actually a Souls-like game.
Hey, Raven, welcome.
Sultan Sanctuary, I just love that game, and if you haven't played it, you probably should, because it's really, really good. It has nailed the feel of From Software's combat in a 2D plane. It has that same sort of feel, that same sort of urgency and weight. And it's also got just a fantastically large map to explore. Lots of Metroidvania aspects of backtracking when you get new power-ups. It's really good.
If anyone's wondering, I'm totally blind on that one. That might be fun.
It's only 50k points. Somebody can put it in.
Yeah, it's a short game, isn't it? Indies are quite short usually. That'd be fun. Yeah, if you want to see that, we can do that. What else have I played that I would call? Oh, I've ended up with the Surge 1/2. There. My 1/2 ended up a 1/2. Now it's the Surge 3.
You just put an ampersand, and then it's Surge 1 and 2.
I like Surge 3.
Oh, Senua's Sacrifice. That's a good game. I like that game. I didn't like the combat in the game, but I like that game. I would not say that is a Souls-like game. There's not
no RPG elements
lot.
to it, right? There's
not
leveling
much
of stats.
Not much RPG elements. There's not a lot of similarity to like the actual gameplay mechanics. Man, every time I think of that game, I think of the trailer that they had that was you like basically experiencing the world as Senua, and you're just like, oh my god, that's terrifying.
I still haven't played that one. I watched a bunch of it. It looked interesting, but it never pulled me in enough to buy it and spend the time. I'll be right back.
The gameplay is much more like God of War.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really liked Senua's Sacrifice. Don't think it's a Souls-like.
The Souls-like list of games should be fairly small and narrow, because that's kind of the point of it being a kind of defining tag. Or there shouldn't be a broad array of games that apply to it. It should be fairly narrow. It's the same as if you compare any other kind of defining games of recent and then trying to find like the similar ones. And you can find a lot that share live elements, but if you really try to break it down
and back
to its core things, it's going to be a very small list of games that are actually that like similar enough to call them like.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I did have Steam pulled up here with a what is Souls-like search a moment ago. Where'd it go? Nope, no more. Okay.
It's gone.
Nope, that's not right. Okay.
That's CarTube.
That is CarTube.
Also good.
It is. But Steam actually has a Souls-like tag in their search.
Oh,
so
does it?
let me pull that up and see
Now I
what
want
they
to see
think.
what's in there.
It is not too accurate, unfortunately.
Oh, I know.
Something can clear up here.
But it'll give us something to talk about.
Remnant from the Ashes is a game that I've played and beat, and I enjoyed it, but it is definitely not Souls-like. It is definitely a third-person shooter. But the reason I think it gets that tag is because it has like the bonfire system, and it has like kind of somewhat difficult boss fights that have similar mechanics between them. But of course, like, as we're saying, that's not enough to define it as Souls-like. But I'd even go far to say is there's kind of like a new kind of subgenre that's coming out of Souls games that these other games are now also applying. But it's too broad to just call it Souls-like. Like, there needs to be a more appropriate term kind of found, similar to like back in the day when FPS games were called Doom clones or Doom likes. And after a while, yeah, sure, they have the first-person perspective and they have ranged gun combat, but other than that, they were completely different games. Over time, people noticed those are the similar mechanics, and then they started calling them first-person shooters. So I think we're in that stage right now where we've had just a genre-defining series, and we just have no idea where to place or call it. Everyone just loves the mechanics. Developers are reusing these mechanics in separate games because they like them so much. But we're applying this term that's too broad, and we kind of need to find out like what are these mechanics and what should we kind of call a game that has like that kind of difficult, challenging boss fights, bonfire mechanics, Estus, flasks, all that kind of smaller, minor pieces that build up into like what the Souls games were.
So interesting. The first 3 on the list are on our not Souls-like.
Yep.
That was a great bit there, Pseudo. I 100% agree with everything you're putting down there. I noted a couple games down while you were doing that. On the not Souls-like, Outward, not Souls-like at all. Has vaguely Souls-like combat.
Interesting. Hollow Knight is tagged as Souls-like on Steam. It's definitely a Metroidvania. I would not say it's Souls-like.
Really? I hadn't actually played it. I've seen a lot of it. It has the death punishment system.
It is way more Castlevania than anything else.
Yeah.
Yep. Like really symphony. Well, not even. Like it's got a lot of like stereotypically roguelike elements to it, where you've got a very simple attack and a jump and like maybe a dodge. But then it's also got the sort of typical Metroidvania map exploration, backtracking, gaining of abilities.
So
it has checkpoints.
It did bring in the death punishment, though, right? With dropping everything where it is when you die, having to get back there.
Yeah.
Okay. Pull up the other list. So, is it an RPG at all?
It is. It does not have many RPG systems. It is more a pure action game.
Okay. So it's damn near a Souls-like. It's probably as close as we can get without actually calling it one then. Basically just missing the RPG stuff.
Missing RPG stuff. Like it doesn't have gear systems, stats, to my knowledge.
Those are all pretty important to Souls, I agree.
Which is a good point to bring up. Like I'm scrolling through this list and I saw a game here with the tag of Souls-like that's just called Samurai Simulator. It doesn't look like it's out yet, but it looks like it has very similar kind of aspects to Sekiro. And this is the kind of problem that we're talking about, is when you get these too broad of tags, all of a sudden you're calling this game that's like Sekiro, like Dark Souls, and you're kind of combining, you're jumping these gaps and these bridges that probably shouldn't be there. So that you have someone who would say play Dark Souls and really enjoyed it. Now it's a far leap to play a game called Samurai Simulator. But if you call it a Souls-like, you're going to expect, a similar experience, and that's probably not what you're going to get. Aside from maybe the combat's a bit similar, and that's the kind of one of the things we're trying to discuss here.
And Bloodborne is so Souls-like, and by the same developer, that it's not even called Souls-like. Technically, it's usually called Soulsborne.
Yeah. Incredibly similar. The only real difference in the games, other than the setting, is that it is a game that punishes defensive play versus rewarding defensive play.
Yep.
That's the main difference.
Yep. That's when you make your jump from Dark Souls to Bloodborne, you stop rolling backwards and you start rolling forwards. That's about the difference in gameplay. But it makes such a difference. Oh my god.
God, the rally system. Oh my god, the rally system's so good.
Oh, hey guys, you know that frantic, hot combat you love? How about you just never leave it anymore? Okay.
I'll do that.
Any news on Elden Ring other than it's coming from Hidetaka? No, but honestly, that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, we're pretty blind on Elden Ring, and I'm intending on staying that way. I want to experience it fresh when it launches. Basically, unless it comes out that it's going to be gigantic open world, take 15 minutes to get anywhere with nothing in it, and also not Shadow of the Colossus, then I'm not interested at that point. But otherwise, I'm just gonna buy it blind.
The thing we should talk about maybe is, do we think that Elden Ring is going to be a Souls-like?
No,
because I don't think so either. Which is fine. Like, it's not a bad thing, but it's one of those things. I think that game's immediately going to get that tag now because it's made by FromSoft. It's going to be.
I would be surprised if FromSoft makes another Souls-like. At least anytime immediately soon. I think they've kind of mastered that, and he wants to do something different now. He's an artist. He feels like he's knocked that out of the park. Bloodborne is his all-time favorite. What about Ghost of Tsushima? Absolutely not Souls-like.
That is an Assassin's Creed-like.
Yep. not super interested in it, to be perfectly honest. I would have super
Yeah,
high hopes for it.
as soon as I saw some gameplay, I was like, oh.
Really?
I was hoping this would be like Sekiro.
Oh, because when I saw gameplay, I went, that's exactly what I expected. And I was not interested from the beginning.
I thought it had potential. It was something that I was going to be very excited about, maybe a reason to buy a PS5. But it's not.
Space Ghost says he's obsessed with DS1. Started
It's
it
a good game.
ago. Yeah, you
It's
might
a good
be a
game to be
little
obsessed over.
disappointed with DS2. I did jump into it. It's a very different game. It's
a very good game.
It's a good game, but it's got this sort of spot that it's in where it's following one of the greatest games in history, and it's trying to like set a world record high jump, and it didn't quite clear the high jump, but it still set like, a local record. It's a good game, but when you compare it to Dark Souls, it's not Dark Souls.
Basically just pick an edition. It doesn't matter if it's Scholar of the First Sin or not. The thing that made the community upset about Scholar of the First Sin is that they made a lot of seemingly arbitrary changes. But it's still good.
Yeah, it's still a
fun.
good game.
Like I have like over 450 hours in Dark Souls 2. It's a good game.
But before you jump into it, you should know that you have to raise your adaptability so that your role isn't worthless. They don't tell you this anywhere. If somebody would have told me that, I would have had a much better experience at the beginning of the game.
Or start Explorer and just get used to shitty rolls. Just as an aside, there is a free demo for the Surge on Steam if you want to check that out, Deus.
Ooh, interesting. I might do that. Titan Souls comes up on here. Where do you land on that one?
It's a boss rush game, not Souls-like. It's really fun. I like it a lot. It says Souls in the name, but it's not a Souls-like game. It's closer to Shadow of the Colossus than anything else.
Right on. Did you play Death's Gambit? I know you played Dead Cells, which was more random.
Dead Cells is very much a roguelite.
Metroidvania.
Again, it's a very good game, but not Souls-like in the least. Death's Gambit I played as well. Love Death's Gambit. It has definitely a lot more Metroidvania to it. It is definitely an action RPG. I'm on the fence on that one.
Death's Gambit?
Yeah.
I'm going to add Remnant from Ashes from that. So like, that's one of the ones that kind of bothered me when I first saw that tag applied.
Yeah. I know it has some base building to it, and it got Souls combat, right?
No, it is a third-person shooter, and the only really close thing to it is bonfires and bosses. It's like,
okay.
I still really enjoyed it, but it's like it's far from the Dark Souls experience. It is.
So, Pseudo, have you played Immortal Unchained?
I don't think so.
Because that's another third-person shooter for the most part. That does have quite a few Souls-like elements.
It's definitely like it's not impossible to be a third-person shooter like Souls-like. It's just like Remnant from Ashes. The only thing that I really experienced from it that would clarify it was like bonfires and like bosses and like rolling to dodge. And I feel like that's just such a broad label that like there are so many games that can have those things, especially if it's like it's starting to feel like a game that has the bonfire system is what's being applied to Souls-like, and that's such a smaller, like minor part of what makes the Souls games a Soul game. Yep. Even though they all have that similar mechanic, it doesn't mean that is their like defining mechanic. It's something that everyone's using now. It's a nice way to have a checkpoint system. It's a nice kind of way to be able to travel around places, and it's a cool mechanic, but it's definitely not something that should just be defined to being a Souls game.
I'm with you.
Agree.
I'm with you. Though absolutely one of my favorite moments in a Souls game is when I'm traveling through a dangerous area, scared for my life, low on Estus, enemies all around me, and then I notice that little mark off to the side. Oh, hey, wait,
And
that's
then you
a
start
door,
to
isn't
hear-
it? And then you
You
go
start
and
to
open
hear the
door.
bonfire music, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
And then as you approach the bonfire, all of a sudden you realize, oh my god, it's that bonfire! I'm back here? Best time in the game. Dark Devotion. I've never played it, but my buddy says kind of Souls-like. I've never played it either.
I've been watching these little trailers play. It definitely looks like a game I want to play.
It's got
But
some gear system to it here. Got a dodge and a roll, iframes. Do you think... So one of the big things that I've always loved about the From games, not Souls-like, but the From games, I'll specify, is that... Where was I going with that? I had to make such a focus on the From game,
That
I forgot my point.
They're made by FromSoft,
Yes.
and therefore they're FromSoft games.
Well, now you've just made me completely lose it, because now I'm laughing.
But no, I've never played Dark Devotion, and I'm going to probably buy it right now.
Yeah. I don't usually like 2D games, so I tend to have them ignored fairly often.
That's definitely getting added to wish list.
Does look interesting. I probably just see there's so many games that try to call themselves Souls-like that I tend to ignore most of them until somebody I know who I respect says that was a pretty good game, and then I'll look at it. I'll take it off.
I've
ignore
introduced Deus to a lot of
I'll
games.
follow it. We'll see how it goes.
I think I might have skipped past this if it was an early access release.
That may be when I did it too. Star Wars Fallen Order we've gone over. Blasphemous, is that actually a Souls-like?
No,
No?
it's really, really good, and you should play it, and it's on sale, and go buy it. But it's not a Souls-like.
The problem is I don't play a lot of the Souls-likes just because they're not actually Souls-likes.
Yeah.
And now I'm actually wanting to like go and play the Surge. I'm not really interested in Lords of the Fallen because I know about the shield slam break bullshit.
But it's so funny.
'Cause that's really all, like, once I know about it, I can't not use it. There's the Immortal Unchained you were talking about, right?
Yeah,
Mixed reviews.
It's not a well-made game, but it is a game, and it does have Metroidvania aspects. It is a third-person shooter action RPG. Fair is questionable, and it is punishing on death. I to be honest, I really wish that game had like another 6 months of polish on it. I think it would have been fantastic.
That is a thing that happens, isn't it? Souls games take a lot more. Okay, so here's one to bring up and that we can start talking about. A game that was often compared to it, not so much anymore, but at the very beginning you heard stuff like a lot. And creating that difference between the character action games and the Souls-likes. To me, one of the biggest differences between them is in character action games, your character is a badass, and in FromSoft games, you're the badass.
Oh yeah. Like you're right now, you are doing a fist weapons only run through Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, my character
Your
is
character
nothing
is
special.
not a badass.
There's nothing special about him. You're never going to be able to backflip through the air and dart around and stab enemies at light speed and all this fancy stuff that you can do in Devil May Cry and in action games. You're not going to feel like that kind of a badass. If you want to feel like a badass, it's got to come from you.
Would you say that extends to the Souls-like? Something that would be Souls-like is that you're the badass?
That's kind of where I'm pushing this towards is a discussion like that. Yeah, how important is that to the Souls-like style? Also,
what about Bloodborne?
Well, I was going to say another aspect of the difference between the Devil May Cry and Bloodborne is like that too. I would say you're not anything special.
Really?
You can dodge a little bit, and you can attack.
But you also have the ability to harness like occult energies. You get
magic in Dark Souls, Dark Bead, and throw lightning, and
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point.
Another one of the key differences between the DMC character action games and the Soulsborne series is the instant reaction. That instant feedback character action that Souls doesn't have because of animation locking. And a lot of people tried to say the game doesn't control that well original when it first came out because, you hit the button and it doesn't do it right away. Then they kind of learned, oh, I'm doing something else.
Well, to be fair, a lot of those comparisons were made to Demon Souls, and Demon Souls does have some problems. It is very much Dark Souls 0.5.
Yes,
it wasn't ready for release yet.
It was the beta test. It was testing out all of those Hidetaka ideas. And I mean, Hidetaka didn't have a video game console growing up. He could only go to friends' houses and play them, and then was extremely influenced by Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and stuff like that. So, he had an interesting approach to games when he started. It was different.
When I play Bloodborne, I feel like much more of a badass from the get-go than I do in a Souls game, which was what was giving me pause.
But I think that's more just the combat, how smooth the combat is.
Despite the fact that it runs at like 20 FPS.
30 on my Pro. It looks beautiful. It's great. I love my Pro.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking into getting a PS5. Is I'm hoping that Bloodborne will get a frame rate stabilization and maybe frame rate lift patch.
Yeah, I was talking about maybe even a remastered, not remastered, but just slightly redone version to actually sit 60 frame and make it more stable.
Really I would buy a PlayStation 5 day one for that.
Yep, me too.
It would definitely sell the console, and I'm pretty sure they're aware of that too. So hopefully it happens.
Oh yeah. They would sell many more copies of Bloodborne again. Many more copies.
On a random tangent, talking about things we hope for, I keep thinking about that like a Souls-like or Sekiro, actually more Sekiro-like than maybe Souls-like, but the kind of like Gundam fighting game with like Sekiro controls would just be
fantastic. That'd be so sick. That would be so good.
I keep thinking about it. It's like there's so much they could do with it. Like it would just, even like anywhere from like the visual design to even like the audio design of like having just like the laser weapons and laser swords and just like these giant machines clashing into each other. It's just like it needs to happen.
Somebody needs to make that.
Yeah, like someone needs to make it good, hopefully, because anyone can make it, but hopefully a studio with a really good team can really pull that together, because that would be fantastic.
Who would you even give that to?
Well, like the ideal
Rage is going to say Platinum, probably.
Damn it, you know me too well. But if somebody could pull it off, it would be Platinum Games.
Yeah, I could see
more likely. I agree.
I could see FromSoft doing it pretty well and having it be like another kind of genre-defining game that has just like some of the best combat. I would love to see like the mech genre have its combat redefined from the typical kind of roaming lock-on shooter to something that's way more up close and personal, and like parry, fast paced, high risk, high reward, combat orientated.
Yeah, keep the range stuff in there and let you parry the range.
Yeah,
that's what Sekiro did.
I want to play that.
Parrying bullets. Parrying
do
bullets
that.
makes you feel like such a goddamn badass. The only thing better than parrying a bullet in Sekiro is a Mikiri. I want to play some Sekiro. We were playing Bloodborne, by the way, last night. That's what me and Pookie were doing together. She was slaughtering some stuff, and I was enjoying and coaching.
I was playing some Doom Eternal.
Yeah, it's a good game.
I beat Doom Eternal last night, actually. Finally finished it.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
It is. I finally went back to finish it off, and I hadn't played it for a little bit because I got busy with just life. And I think I enjoyed it more the second time coming back to it. I think the first time there was too much going on for me to enjoy it. I went back to it and like, you know what? Had a bit of time to digest this. Like it is a lot of fun. It's definitely not Doom 2016. It's a lot different, but I really enjoy like the arena combat of like I have all my stuff I need to manage. It felt more like kind of like an MMO. Like I've got my cooldown rotation. I've got like gotta watch my armor, gotta watch my health, got my flamethrower, got my grenades. And it was just like for a while I wasn't using the frost grenade because I'm like, oh, this is just too much for me to handle. But then like I pulled into my rotation of like, find a clump of enemies, grenade them so they blow up into like smaller chunks. Try to go in a circle to group the big guys together, freeze them in a clump so I can run in with like the shotguns and just like flamethrower, auto shotgun, build ammo, kill. Like it turned into like this whole like I really enjoyed the last bit of it. And then it's good.
I think it's the most fun I've ever had in a shooter.
I was playing a little bit last night with the super shotgun again because like the first time I played the game, I didn't like the super shotgun. Didn't think it was very good.
Yeah,
no, it turns out it's amazing.
I was like, why would I use this when I can use the other shotgun on full auto? Because that thing would just like hamburger helper the entire room. But then being able to use the super shotgun to not only close gaps but also like extend gaps away because there's always so many just like random smaller mobs just kind of wandering the corners, and especially when you start getting to I'm really bad with names, but the guy with the red shield who's like one of the tougher
Marauder.
Yes, him like the super shotgun. Like the first time I beat him, I resorted to using the scoped rifle. That's why I beat him the first time. I just like, okay, this is working because you could scope it on him and he'd always come straight at you and you would just shoot him with that, and then I would get more damage in off the subsequent shooting him with that rather than like the super shotgun, and then you have to reload and you maybe get one other shot in with it. But then later on, I'm like, okay, now they're throwing him with like a billion other people, and this isn't a viable strategy anymore. I can't just sit here scoped in waiting for him to come at me. Like, time to use the big boy weapons.
Yeah,
but
it's
I like how they kept it fresh.
I agree. It's interesting that you used the rifle, and they teach you to use the super shotgun there. It was strange because I tried to use the super shotgun and then why am I using this? And I pulled out the ballista and just fucking annihilated him the first time I tried. It didn't even hit me. I was like, oh fuck, why didn't I do this the first time?
Yeah, the ballista was another weapon I slept on in my initial playthrough. Did not play with it nearly enough. Turns out it's really good.
Is Echo the Dolphin Souls-like?
But the key to the Marauder is quick swapping.
Yeah.
You go ballista, super shotgun, ballista. He gets mulched.
My favorite
was satisfying just to mulch him later on in the game because he felt like a boss at first, right? And they're like, oh no, he's just some guy. Yeah, it's like, oh, he's just some guy. He didn't feel too much. I got him first try, but I always had some extra lives. But like later on, like I don't know if they really changed him too much. Like, they didn't nerf him for like the later encounters, right?
It's exactly
I'm sure
the
he
same.
had more health.
Same mob.
Yeah.
You
That was my
just
point, like,
know how to kill it.
Yeah, so now like they throw him with everything else. You're like, oh, like the first time you see him again with everything else, you're like, wait, what the shit? Like, this isn't. Yeah, especially if you have like the chainsaw, it's like, no, you can't use that on him. No, same with like the other kind of bigger enemies they throw you, and eventually they give you. I like how they still kept it fresh near the end because a lot of like we're on a huge channel. We'll finish it quickly. a lot of the FPS genre are like halfway through the game, we're like, yeah, we've taught you everything, and now you just get to roll through the rest of the game, and you just repeat yourself, and they can get very repetitive and kind of boring, but like, dude, like right up to the end, it's like, now there's new stuff showing up, and like new mechanics all the way to like the final boss fight. It's like, yeah, this is something like super crazy, but it's a slightly different mechanic than what you're used to, so it's not completely the same experience. You still have to kind of change up your play style, and I didn't feel like it got too repetitive as like previous shooters kind of fall their fate to.
Well, and even just clumping together different types of enemies, like when they start throwing a marauder at you, and also some of the mancubi, and also some of the snake people. I forget what they're called. But like that combination of enemies on like immediately after you get your sword.
Yeah,
that was a tough fight. I died a bunch there.
And like they throw in little things too that they don't reuse too much. Like I can't remember what they're called, but the things that you can only really kill with headshots, but then reward you with like health and ammo. And it was just like a nice little minor thing that makes you adjust your playstyle from maybe you were, rushing in with a lot of the close range weapons, or maybe you're, picking them off with grenades. With now you have to headshot these things. So you have to kind of it changed up a lot. But big tangent. A thing that Space Ghost brought up that I'd like to maybe try to explore a bit is, are there any Souls-like games that came out before the Soul series? Is there anything that's, retro or even just a couple of years older than Dark Souls that we could attribute to being Dark Souls, or maybe something that Dark Souls pulled from, or is Dark Souls just so defining and such a fresh take that it's just unique and we can't really find too much about it?
Well, Dark Souls borrows from a lot of different games for playstyle. Like everything they do has been done before, except for maybe I think the health, life, or money and experience being the same currency and it being dropped in the spot every time you die. I think that's new. I can't think of another example of that.
That's the first example of that I can think of as well.
Yeah.
Most of the other stuff that is Souls defining.
Diablo was loot, I believe.
Yeah, Diablo was your body and loot. You would lose experience. It did have some similarities as I was sitting and musing about it last night, but the more I dug into it, the more different it got. That's sort of how your ideas work sometimes. Sometimes your ideas aren't always what you think they are. Sometimes it's just an idea that needs to be mulled around in the mind and worked on, and things come out of it.
All-time favorite game?
Bloodborne.
That's a hard one for me.
Bloodborne.
the answer is Bloodborne. You just haven't played it yet.
Yeah,
I've heard of Bloodborne.
Yeah, but you haven't played through Bloodborne
I'm
yet.
Spoiled.
I'm
spoiled by frame rates. It took me a bit, and then I don't have my PS4 right now. But I have played it, and I was enjoying when I was playing it. And then also, unfortunately, my friend was over, and he really likes Bloodborne, and he played on my save and like beat a few bosses for me. And it's like I have to restart, but it's kind of like
you have to restart.
It's one of those things where I put it off because it's one of my pet peeves ever since.
I understand.
I think it was one of the games that originated it. It might have been Oblivion or Skyrim, and it just like corrupted my save. And then that experience has just like salted me from like restarting games, because those games are not terrible. That great to restart the first time. Like if you beat a game and you go for replay value, that's different from being halfway through a game, it corrupting your save, and then you starting again, being like, do I go down the same path to try to recap what I lost, or do I, start fresh? But then if you start fresh, you feel like you're not playing your authentic first playthrough anymore, and that whole experience is ruined. So like, I'm just trying to be careful of that.
I totally understand. The difference is those games were bad.
Yeah. My point definitely being like that left that taste level, and I haven't had a chance to, replay from scratch a good game. So it's going to be...
Until I played Bloodborne, if you asked me what my favorite game was, I said Chrono Trigger. Without hesitation.
Excellent pick.
Without hesitation. Every time. That was my favorite game. That game has flawless design all the way through. Enemies have mechanics. Abilities rely on timing. Every single boss has a mechanic that will kill you If you're not paying attention to it, unless you outlevel them. It's a number game at the end of the day. You can outlevel things. It's the way things are. That's fine. But if you want to do it low level, every boss has a mechanic to pay attention to. And everyone is different. And everyone will kill you if you don't do them right. There's things hidden everywhere. There's side quests. There's mini quests. Every character is well written. Every character is likable. There's not a bad thing I can say about it. I'm not going to say that much stuff about Bloodborne, but I will say that Bloodborne is now my all-time favorite game, period. And you should probably play it if you haven't.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I also had the same number one pick pre-Bloodborne.
Really?
Yep. Chrono Trigger.
It's almost like you know good game design.
Something like that, anyway.
We didn't know each other in those days, by the way. We haven't
No, we
known
met,
each other
what?
too long.
4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, 4 or 5
Something
years
like that?
now. That's about how long I've been playing from games. Yeah.
It's hard for
Bloodborne,
me.
real good.
It's still hard for me to go through because there's so many games that captivated me for so long for so many different reasons that it's hard to have like a favorite. And I was just going through my Steam list for hours played, and I have almost like 700 hours of TF2, but I would definitely not call that my favorite game. But
Yeah, no.
maybe for a while it was because it's like the multiplayer experience.
The
Fallout New
game,
Vegas is on here with
My
like
game-
100, and
my games with the most hours are not my favorite games of all time. Chrono Trigger, like I've played it quite a few times, but it doesn't take that many hours to get through it. I've definitely played World of Warcraft a lot more than I played Chrono Trigger. I definitely played Diablo 2 a lot more than I played Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Trigger is still my favorite game. It's just, it touched my heart in so many ways, and it was just so well designed all the way through.
that's fair. It's very fair. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer the question.
Yeah, it's a
I'd
tough
just
one.
say like, yeah, it's just also my memory isn't great. So I'd say something and then like 5 minutes later be like, oh wait, no, this but for like childhood at least, I like the game I played probably the most growing up, surprisingly enough, was Harvest Moon Save the Homeland. I don't even know why. It's not even like the best of the Harvest Moon games. It's actually one of the like
Because it's easy
one
to
of
put
the-
a lot of time into it if you just pick it up and start playing it.
yeah, kind of. It's just like it's one of the first games that just had like a giant. It had a replay loop of a year. There was like 8 or something different endings, and the characters weren't fantastically written, but they all had like distinct personalities. So that like every time I went through, I would do something different, and it's just for some reason the game I played the most of because apparently I like virtual chores more than actually ever doing real chores.
And yours is BioShock. I'm glad you like it so much. It was a good shooter. I enjoyed playing it. I'm not a big shooter fan, and hence not in my favorites, but I enjoyed it, and that speaks a lot for a shooter.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yep.
Its remaster unfortunately wasn't very well done.
Yeah, that's sad. I hate it when they ruin good games.
It's one of those games that to me did not stand the test of time though.
It is
Like,
a little
I can
old
go-
design.
I can go back and replay what was that Star Wars game? Republic Commando, I think. Steam library, Star Wars.
Sounds about right.
Republic Commando, yeah, I was right. Star Wars Republic Commando, I can replay endlessly. It has aged incredibly well. So, take that for what it is.
So I guess we can't think of anything that we could apply Souls-like to before the Souls series, which I think is fair since it's the reason why the Souls-like tag now exists because it was so fresh and defining.
Yeah, it does borrow,
But
like
it's-
we said, Metroidvania. It's
Yeah.
on the list. That is really more Metroid than Vania. Metroid started that, but that sort of level design. But they were the first ones, as far as I know, to take that 3D. Do a really proper 3D Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Sure, there might have been some.
Other than the 3D Metroid games and the 3D Castlevania games.
Did they keep their proper 3D level? I guess, yeah. And even, actually, even sort of Soul Reaver.
You know, I never played those games.
Never.
Did they age well?
Yes, Soul Reaver did.
Okay. It's on Steam. It's on GOG. I'll probably go grab it.
Yeah, Legacy of Kain, not so much. It's like a clunky Zelda.
No, all they've got is Legacy of Kain. Rip.
No Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver?
Well, they have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver
That
and
is Soul
Legacy
Reaver.
of Kain Soul Reaver 2. Okay.
Okay. No,
thought
there's also an
a
original
different
Legacy
game.
of Kain before Soul Reaver.
You know what? They're both only $1. I'm just going to buy both of them.
Legacy of Kain, before that one, was a...
There's Legacy of Kain Defiance and Blood Omen 2. But no Blood Omen 1.
There we go. This
Only
was
Blood
the
Omen
original
2.
Legacy of Kain. This is what it looked like.
That is very different.
Yeah, and it played like Zelda. Except you're a vampire, and you get spells that, like, shred the flesh off of all the people in the town. If you're just, like, in a town and need blood, you can just be like, "Wah!" And everyone's just like, "Ah!" And their skeletons fall to the floor, and you get all this blood energy, and then everyone's pissed off at you because you just murdered half the town. It's a good game.
I now own both of the Soul Reaver games.
Fair. That's been done many times. And punishing on death, and the death punishment reclaimable. Yeah, Diablo kind of did that.
Not to the same degree.
Not to the
Once
same degree.
you lose the XP is gone.
No, you can get
But
some XP back.
Being able to recover your corpse is a thing that has been done in many, many games.
You did get some XP back for recovering your corpse.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I thought it was gone once you died.
In D2, you would get a little bit back.
TIL.
It wasn't a full reclaim. It was still a punishment for the death. But these are really hearkening back to old NES ideologies, and to a lesser extent SNES and Genesis ideologies, and old arcade ideologies of you should never die. Dying is a bad thing.
Wait.
That's one of the things that
Shadow Warrior 2?
It's one of the things that bugs me a lot about new games. Is that I find a lot of situations when I'm playing a newer game where I'm like, if I die right now, I'll respawn with everything I have, plus more health, and be closer to where I want to be. Well, how can I die? Someone kill me, please. Please kill me. Dying is the optimal play in the game right now, and that should never be a thing.
That's in Remnant as well. The easiest way to get back to full health is just to get someone to kill you, or just to go die. Same with, I think you get ammo reset too when you die. So like, you just okay. Well, I'm gonna go die, and like I think if you rest on a bonfire, it'll give you your stuff back. But it's just one of those things. It's one of the things you just I'm low on stuff. There's not much here, so I can just die, and the bonfire is so close that I'll respawn there, and we're good to go. It's not much of it's never really like a punishment when you die in that game.
That definitely makes it not Souls-like, because the death punishment is so core to the experience of that kind of game.
Yeah, it's also satisfying when you retrieve all your souls if you have quite a few, and you're like, uh-oh.
A fat stack of soft humanity. Got like 9 soft humanity and like 50,000 souls on your bloodstain. You're just like, I need it.
As well as attention to not die a second time before you can get back and get your stuff.
Yeah, if you learn from your mistake and you don't make it again, you won't lose anything except a little bit of time. Great design. That was one of the most intense moments of my Dark Souls 3 run, I think, that I did on stream, was when I killed the Devourer of Souls.
Aldrich?
Yes. Killed Aldrich, and then, without spending souls or doing anything, talked to the NPC, and it instantly warped me into another boss fight. I'm sitting there with all the souls I just got from that one boss fight. I'm down to 3 or 4 flasks, and a new boss is coming at me. I was just like, F. I tried to bone, it hit me. I healed, it hit me. I dodged, I healed. I had 1 flask left. I started fighting it, and I won! Yes! I am a god!
Souls. Souls is great.
Oh my god, I got a adrenaline rush just talking about it. My head's all light and fuzzy from it. It's wonderful. I can't think of what else is Souls like. There's really nothing to do with the story like we talked about. So let's add it to here.
I thought it was some of the level design as well as just how story is presented, not the story itself, but like level design, the way that it doesn't just force feed it to you, but it lets you it's like an exploration kind of driven narrative.
But is that
rather than
core to Souls like, or is that core to FromSoft?
I would say it's much more closely tied to how FromSoft makes games and the fact that it is a Metroidvania style map.
Yeah, so what...
Yep, that's fair.
Kind of what we're talking about here is... And also little things about the depth, too. So, like, when you see a dead body in the game and you loot it and you get some items, it wasn't... Like, most games, you just think, oh, I got some items. And these games go much deeper than that. These games are more, you got those items because the person who had those items died there. He died there because he was here doing something. And if you read those items and start following the traces of lore you can find in the area, you can build the whole story of who this person was and how they died there, typically.
And I would say that is very much just a FromSoft thing.
Yeah, I think that is just a little too specific to make it a genre or a tag defining thing. Because it would rule out almost everything.
Take
that
a look
isn't
at
just
Code Vein, for instance. Code Vein is very much a straightforward linear story, but it still has everything to make it a Souls-like game.
I'd say of all the ones that are not Souls-like, Neo probably is the closest.
Yeah, but then its combat system is just entirely different.
Yeah. So how important is the combat? What of the combat is important? Because we don't have anything about combat under Souls-like.
Pookie, Pookie would say you really have to get good consistently to get through the game. Skipping grades will not work for Souls games. Definitely. It is constantly building your skill set. And it's your skill set, not the character's skill set.
How about the animation locking?
I think that's maybe too specific.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Because it kind of sets the tone for everything in the game. I see that as one of the defining differences between it and character action games. Character action games, you spam attack until you see the attack coming, then you hit dodge. In Souls, you consider every single button press before you press it.
That's exactly what I was going to touch on. Here's another way to describe that. Interactions have consequences.
Yes. Yeah, but the animation locking of your attacks is what creates
But it's broader than that.
It has broader implications. It creates a broader effect, but that is the core change that does it.
Also,
the amount of
the
balancing.
ability to. What about the ability to kill NPCs? Aggro NPCs.
Is that core to that? I don't know if that's core, because can you do that in every one of those games?
Yeah.
Like it definitely puts you into that world more, but I think that's more their thing.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Maybe we should break down, because I think out of these lists, or maybe we'll pick two or three from the games that are not Souls-like, that are the closest to being Souls-like, and really kind of break down why they're not Souls-like. So I think that'll really kind of hammer out what it is. So I think if we just put kind of Sekiro in that list, I feel like a lot of people are still going to say, hey, this game is very much Souls-like, and they're going to say the reasons why. Maybe we should, break down and put in a bit of bullet form, like what is different about Sekiro that makes it not like Souls-like, because at a first glance, there are a bunch of things that we put in Souls-like that Sekiro still has.
Sekiro's combat is very, very, very close to Souls-like. They are right there with each other. It's the action RPG side that really breaks it from the Souls-like. You don't level, you don't gain stats, you don't do a build, you don't get weapons, you don't get magic. You're your guy, and you go through the game and you unlock some abilities and stuff as you go. It's far closer to a classic Zelda structure, which then I would more compare in the modern day to Darksiders.
Darksiders. Yeah.
Yep.
Darksiders 1, real good.
Yeah, I loved Darksiders 1, and I would compare Sekiro to Darksiders 1. Just with Souls combat.
The combat system.
Yeah. You finally finished your group project and got to start Sekiro. I'm happy for that. Sekiro is one of the best games I've played in a long time.
Very true.
It got multiple awards from all three of us when we did our award panel for last year's awards, and we didn't even talk to each other about it. We were just like revealing the same thing, and we were like, really? We all agreed?
We were expecting a lot more variance out of that.
We chose 2 bosses from that game for boss of the year. That's how good it is. Both of us chose the game and different bosses. Keep going. Yeah, the Darksiders is a great game. I'll enjoy it a lot, and yeah, I'm enjoying Sekiro gameplay. My favorite combat. I think of any game ever. My favorite combat. So
although good. Bloodborne could probably give it a run for its money if it was running at higher frame.
Bloodborne's right up there. I
think the smoothness of Sekiro's, because it's definitely a lot easier for me to get into Sekiro than it was when I started playing Bloodborne. I think that might have just been from the way, from the higher frame rate as well. It's just a lot of the kind of smoother animation tweaking that comes with more experience.
The frame rate never bothered me. I find I can even see Bloodborne as being very smooth combat. 30 FPS doesn't get to me. The difference to me is the parry system versus the deflect system. The visceral is great and super rewarding and one of my favorite moves ever, but the rapid, smooth deflection of every attack and getting the timing of the enemies and getting into that back and forth exchange was just so rewarding. It's not From though, or not Souls-like though. Not Souls-like at all. Absolutely From.
To expect. Yeah. Another thing we should maybe clarify, I don't know if it falls into Souls-like, but it's definitely something that's getting grouped into it, is the stamina management aspect of the Souls series. And then, of course, the mirror of that to Sekiro would be the posture system. Because a lot of the Souls games and games I'm seeing similar to it are ones where, you have a stamina system and you have to manage your health as well as your stamina during combat, because if you run out of either, you're going to be in trouble. And if you run out of stamina, you're basically almost as well as, depending on when you do, you're probably just going to die. Would you say that the stamina management is something that makes a Souls game feel more like a Souls game, or that's something that just is more like a From game?
All of the games on our Souls-like list have stamina management.
I would say it's pretty core to the experience of the game. And again, something that is one of the core elements that separates Sekiro from the list.
Yeah,
and Jedi Fallen
think
Order.
I'd agree with that. I think Jedi does. I know they have a.
They have a block
I think
meter.
they do have a.
They have a
Yeah,
block
block,
meter
not a
more
stat
similar
block,
to the
definitely
posture
different.
system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm enjoying the game.
Welcome.
I'm playing through Fallen Order right now, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
it's a good game.
Thoroughly enjoyed Fallen Order. It was a great game and probably one of my favorite games to try to incorporate a From type combat system. It definitely has a Sekiro type combat system. We consistently described it when we were first playing it on stream as Prince of Sekiro.
I still think that's apt.
Yeah, I agree.
Pseudo, are you able to play Jedi Fallen Order on your widescreen HDR monitor?
I don't have a widescreen HDR monitor. I just have a curved 17-inch 2K or 1440p. Yeah.
Didn't
I
you say
wanted
that
to
you
get
had one of the 49-inch ones?
No, I said I want one. I said I'm very jealous of yours. I've been eyeing those for a long time. They look really
because
cool.
it is gorgeous. It is by
imagine.
far the best HDR implementation I've seen in a game so far.
Yeah, I only have HDR on my TV, and it's a completely different experience to game on rather than my monitors. I'm hoping to pick up an HDR monitor someday.
These Samsungs are real good, and there's a new one coming out.
Yes, monitors. But stamina management is downplayed a lot in Bloodborne more than the rest of them. It's almost
it
non-existent.
still exists.
It still is a thing, absolutely. It almost non-exists. I have still run out of stamina, but I love what they did with it. I think they got the costs and the regen just right in that game, where you can duck and dodge and weave and fight, and there's time to do that because the bosses have long attacks. You have to be able to continue ducking and dodging and weaving, and then find that opening where the boss stops for a second, where you can actually let it regen and maybe have the time to get an attack off.
See,
if you
I
build
feel
it up
like
a bit, you almost never overextend.
That's what I was going to bring up. I feel like the stamina system in Bloodborne either shouldn't have been tied to a stat, or the costs should have been increased
to make the point more viable or more mandatory in the stat.
Yeah.
I can agree with that, though I think they still balanced the rest of the game well around requiring you to dump into specific damage stats to build well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue that.
Basically, they designed the game
time.
really well is basically all we're saying. Everything was made to work well together. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
That game could have just not had an endurance stat, and I think that would have been fine.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's the biggest impact it has is a noob trap and a slight variation in the regen that different classes have at the beginning until you get up to 12 and never touch it.
Yep.
How do you guys feel with the stamina management versus the posture system?
I fucking love the posture system. Oh my god, I love the posture system.
That's why I say Sekiro is my favorite combat. Bloodborne's my favorite game, but Sekiro is my favorite combat. Bloodborne made me feel emotions I didn't know about and explore things I never thought I would.
So I think
if
FromSoft,
it's a good game.
Yeah, I think if this is one of the parts we're kind of broken record in here, but I think if FromSoft was trying to keep making Souls-like games, the posture system wouldn't exist. But with FromSoft making games outside of the Souls-like genre, now we start seeing things like the posture system and stuff like that. It's why these things are important to not just generalize them, because then when people try to make a Souls-like game, you're going to have to, make sure your stamina management is part of it. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing or, it's a good thing. It's just like that's what's part of it. But seeing how they're not just focusing on it kind of makes me excited for what they're going to make in the future, because you're not really knowing what you're going to expect. It may be kind of similar, but they're not sticking to their formula, their blueprint. They're pulling a little bit over and over, and they're putting in that 10% of new things, and the posture system was part of that 10% of new that was just fantastic.
Yes.
Yep.
It-
100% in agreement.
I'm super excited for absolutely every game that this company is working on. I'm not planning on leaving their side anytime soon. I think they're the modern day Squaresoft. That's who they are.
Probably going to be taking a week off when Elden Ring launches.
You want to sell consoles? Get FromSoft to do you an exclusive. You'll sell consoles. That's how people won the console wars back in the day. They bought Squaresoft. Squaresoft won them the war every time. So stamina management. But what about, we haven't talked about, the animation lock still isn't up there, and I still feel that is core, because that's what makes your button presses matter.
I think that there is a better non-technical way to phrase it, but I agree.
Okay, so how do we want
to say it? I think it's just the
chat. Do you understand what we're talking about when we say animation locking to make button presses matter? How do you interpret it?
The term for it's on the tip of my tongue. I have a word that might fit it.
I would say that it's very committal. Like once you start a thing, you kind of got to finish it. But
Action
that's not
commitment, Riftkick says.
Apparently Riftkick's on my side.
Yeah. Action commitment.
Go figure. The software developer agrees with us. How about maybe animation locking? Kind of like how you're stuck in animation when you press the button. Yes, exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly that.
So that when you hit attack, you're going to finish that attack, and if the enemy wasn't doing anything when you started the attack, they are probably going to attack you right back and smash you in the face. And their hit matters a lot more than yours.
We combine the two and call it action locking. If it's an action, like a combat action locking, so then the actions you take are locked. Maybe not so technical as animation, because that can get kind of maybe not as clear if you just kind of rate that a bullet point, like animation locking can maybe, but like action lock, if it's an action lock comic, and then you know that when you take an action, you are locked to performing that action until it's finished, and then including any consequences to what happens if you commit to that at an appropriate time.
What do you guys think? We're just a bunch of technical brains, and we can't.
I'm with Riftkick here. I think commitment is a better word.
Yeah, when you phrase it like that, then commitment does demonstrate that you do choose it. And the action lock kind of shows that you're like locked into it versus something that you commit to.
I can get behind it. Sure, let's go with that. Unless somebody else is like, that doesn't make sense. This is what I'm going with.
Close enough. We'll iterate. We're agile.
I can touch my toes.
Ship it.
And yeah, that is super, super core and important. And you can always tell somebody who's played the game a few times to somebody who's playing it for the first time, because the person playing it for the first time, he'll click 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 click, and the person playing it for the
I still do that.
And the person who's played it a lot, typically you hear click. A little slower. I'm actually sitting there waiting, like I don't want to hit attack yet. What are you gonna do? There we go. Okay, click, click.
I think that's a big distinction between these games and games like the Shadow Mortar series and stuff like that don't really have an action commitment. You can just be like spam, 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 spam. Oh, parry. Okay, mid interruption of my attack, I can parry, or mid interruption of my attack, I can now do my punch or my jump or whatever. And it wasn't super clear to me now, but I think that's a really big feel between the two of like when you're playing these games, you are locked into, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm committing to my attack. I'm committing to my roll. I'm committing to my Estus, which I'm very bad at Estusing at the wrong time. And then I'm like, I'm drinking while a hammer is coming down.
Yes.
So
that's
the
something
rule
to
of
learn.
thumb, the rule of thumb for Estus is only Estus in an opportunity where you would normally attack. That is your zone.
Yep, that's how I learned to
that's
do
a
it
good
too.
thing.
If you get hit and need to Estus, you're going to have to sacrifice your next opportunity to attack to heal. Then he'll be ready again, and you have to not get hit and not make the mistake again to get into that opportunity without needing to heal next time.
Makes sense. I'm so used to games where like the moment you're low, you're just supposed to heal. Because that's like so entwined in so many games before. It's like you're low, so you hit heal button kind of thing, right? And like a lot of games, it's an instant heal. There's no punishment for healing. You're just supposed to do it. Or even games, you know, like a lot of RPG games where it literally pauses the game. You're like, I'm going to eat 30 apples mid-combat right now because I'm low on health. And it's just like, this game's like, no, you got to incorporate into it. You can't just, you know, tell them to wait. Like, wait, I gotta re-up here.
I need to eat a buffet.
Yeah, you might be real hungry. You stab me in the stomach and I'm leaking. I need to put stuff in there, but it's definitely what puts into it, because I think that's also what kind of attributes to the whole people just labeling it as difficult, is they're so used to that combat system where they're allowed to just heal, and when they fail in those games is when they don't heal properly or when they, you know, get comboed into too much damage. Whereas this game's like, no, it's, if you know when to heal, it's a big part of it, but it doesn't really necessarily make it difficult. It's just a slight mechanic change that you can't just pause the combat to re-up yourself versus just, you know, timing your heal properly.
On top of all of that, with all the slowdown, the AI in Dark Souls will attack you the second you heal. Every enemy looking at you just charges you. Ugh. They're made to punish.
Yep. And there are specific heal punish moves built into most enemies. They see you backing up, trying to heal, you start your heal animation, they leap. They will leap for you.
Yeah. Like fencing is one way to say it. I always say that every single enemy, because it's not just the bosses, every enemy in the game has to be approached in the same way, which is one of the key things. How key is that? That, you know, enemies can be just as dangerous as a boss. The combat is so focused that if you're not paying attention to a regular enemy, it will kill you as quickly as a boss will.
I think that's I don't know if that's,
or is that from?
It's definitely, I think it's more from, because there's a lot of other games that can do that as well.
Well,
it doesn't, going all the way back to,
it doesn't have to be.
I don't think that is defining of a Souls-like, but it is a characteristic of most Souls-like.
I think it may even just be a result of these core combat mechanics we're talking about as well. They become such an intricate exchange that if you're not paying attention to them, you will just lose. And I always approach every fight, I think of it like a street fight almost. Especially Bloodborne started getting me in that mindset. You don't just approach an enemy like, it's an enemy and I'm going to attack it. You're first like, what kind of weapon is he holding? Which hand is he holding it in? How many hands is he holding it with? Where are his feet? Which foot is forward? Which way am I going to have to dodge to go through the attack, not with the attack, in order to get to a spot of safety? You're actually going through all of this in your head as you're approaching these enemies after you've done it a few times, because the guy with the hammer swings differently than the guy with the axe swings differently than the guy with the sword.
Or you can be me and be a fucking psycho and just get a bunch of health, and then with the rally system, it doesn't matter. I am very aggressive in Bloodborne.
Oh, I'm very aggressive too, but I still need to know which hand he's holding it in as I'm charging at him to know which way I'm gonna have to dodge. Straight to the side, straight forward, forward to the side.
That doesn't sound an awful lot like hitting him, though.
Well, you have to do that before you hit him.
No, you don't.
You got to get.
Everybody's got stagger in Bloodborne.
I don't know. I'm still of the mindset of get behind him and hit him with the stick. That's my go-to.
Yeah, that is the effective way to do it. I'm not saying the way I play Bloodborne is a good way to play Bloodborne. I'm saying I play Bloodborne like a psycho.
Mom's out of surgery. She's recovering right now. All went well. I'm glad to hear she's good, Lo. Glad to hear she's good.
Yeah, glad to hear that.
Yeah, very good that she's recovering now. I'm glad to hear.
You are definitely going to be quite familiar with all the enemies in the game after a Souls game. Spooky is right.
That's true.
That is something that you brought up a couple of streams ago, I think, Deus.
Yes, when I was playing God of War 2.
Yeah, you were talking about how you couldn't really describe most of the enemies in the first God of War or the second one, other than the ones that gave you trouble.
Couple of them, yeah.
You and I can discuss like which variant of which hollow soldier with which equipment is difficult to deal with in which situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I intricately know the difference of attack pattern between a hollow with a shield and a spear versus a hollow with a shield and a sword. And oh my god, you have to approach them different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're the same enemy. Same skin. Same stats. Different weapon. Changes everything. Because it's all about the animation.
Which takes us back to action commitment.
And it definitely has to be core to it. I know Lords of the Fallen has it. I know Surge has it. Yeah, all of those are definitely action commitment, stamina management, combats. And there is a large number of games that just takes these three things. And this is what
incredibly satisfying.
This is what most people think Souls-like is. But they're missing the ARPG Metroidvania part, is what a lot of those games are missing. That's what separates a lot of stuff out of this list.
Yeah, I think even just action commitment, like itself would be something that could be either a tag or even extend to a subgenre. Like, it's hard to think about where that incorporates this to, but I think those are like the three things, because like genres are supposed to be super, super broad, and I think just having 3 points that make up a genre, and I think that's what kind of adds to what these all, because that's what they do have in common, is like it's your skill, you have to manage stamina in combat, and you have to commit to your actions while in combat, and those 3 traits is what's, I think broad enough that.
Did Castlevania have stamina management at all?
No,
not to my knowledge.
Because the classic Castlevanias were definitely your character, your player skills, and action commitment. And a lot of NES games were down to your skill with action commitment, which is where those two things come from.
Yeah, but I think it's the stamina management put in with this, and this on its own is what's really starting to kind of ideal, like, fully though. Because like those games also can, you can label platformer to like Metroid and Castlevania games. It's a very small part of it, but it is technically a label you can add, but you can't really add those to the Dark Souls the games of now, 3D version that you kind of running around, but they still kind of share some of that stuff. But I'm thinking like
Castlevania more platformer than Metroid, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like what I was just saying, like those 3 things there is kind of like what we're finding is what should be distinguished between Souls-like, because they are like they're part of the Souls-like, but I think that this is what's the broader picture of what people are labeling Souls-like and what they're trying to actually apply that label to when they give it, rather than kind of everything that's there. And we don't have a name for it yet. Hopefully someday we'll have a better appropriate name for it.
Well,
I think
if we gave a genre name to these 3, that would then include Outward, Neo.
It would include a large number of the games on our not Souls-like list. Like it would include,
which is okay.
That's a good thing. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these should be in the same genre as Souls-like, but they are not necessarily the complete Souls-like tag.
Yeah, I think it's definitely what
So if we're seeing
we're bringing up.
a portion of these being included in the genre, then I think we're in the right track, basically.
Should we maybe bold those? So we can, I think that's an important distinguishment that we just kind of found here is
Sorry?
those three, if we can maybe bold them or put some sort of indicator. Because I'd like to hear even from some chat if anyone has any kind of disagreements to this, because of course, like, this isn't something that's set in stone, but just something that we've collectively agreed on, and I'm sure some people would argue against this. But
Yep.
I definitely see these three as being the broader kind of genre-defining aspects of what's in here, and then the other ones combined with it.
This is all unrehearsed. We're here to come up with something with your help, not just to teach you something in this one.
Yeah, we're definitely not. We don't have a predefined scripted answer for what we're asking here. We're definitely just trying to, as a community, figure out kind of what's going on here. Because another thing that we brought up earlier is if we don't do stuff like this and we kind of just let these labels run wild, then we're going to run into the issue of what's happening with roguelikes nowadays, where it's just going to be too broad and it's going to kind of lose its meaning. Or, if you like Dark Souls, you're now not going to like anything with the tag Souls like, because it's going to be too broad. And between Samurai Simulator and Dark Souls 1 is going to be quite the jump. So it's going to be something that we would like to kind of manage now, and getting that idea out there that there's just a lot more going on.
What about heavy action as a genre name?
Or action strategy?
Action strategy is already kind of a thing, though.
Is it?
Like the style of game where you have your controlled character, but you're also doing strategic stuff. Like
I guess, yeah.
The first game that comes to mind is that. Oh hell, what was that game called? The one that had Jack Black in it, and it was like an action game, but also had a bunch of like
Brutal Legend. That game.
Yeah. Brutal Legend.
Okay, fair enough. But there is a slower, more strategic approach to the combat.
And then like the metaphor that people will often use to describe Souls-like combat is weighty. You have to, manage your stamina. You can't just do this forever. You have to commit to your action.
But was Bloodborne in Dark Souls 3 that weighty?
My argument with Dark Souls 3 is that the character movement isn't quite right. It feels too smooth and floaty. I would say that Bloodborne, you still do have to consider your actions. You still do have to manage your stamina. You still your skill is very clearly more important than your character's level.
What about disciplined action games? Like a disciplined action, where it's kind of what the strategy comes down to is being disciplined in the actions that you take and the combat that you're doing, rather than just, traditional action games where you can kind of just push a bunch of buttons and it doesn't matter. This is like more kind of raw and defined.
They feel more mature to me as a game.
Yeah, I like the word disciplined as well, Pookie. I'm not sure.
It's definitely, I'm not super stoked on it, but
I like the implication of the word discipline, but I don't necessarily like the word itself.
Yeah, I'm looking at synonyms.
Pull out the dinosaur. Gotta ask the thesaurus.
Because I think that's definitely what it boils down to as well. It's not, because I do know where people are coming from when it feels weighted, like kind of heavier weighted, because like your movements. But in Dark Souls, you can run the faster, more kind of agile mobile builds. But what it does boil down to is you can't like action spam. You have to be knowing what you're doing, and it commits to it as part of the commitment, right? Like you can't just chain things together. It's going to be like you have to know what you want to do when you're going to do it. You can't just be like, all right, well, I'm going to do like XXX dodge XX here. It's going to be more like, it's more disciplined, as in like, I guess it's more reactionary.
No, it's less reactionary and more anticipated.
Because I'm wondering like how much is, at least for...
I would call Devil May Cry reactionary, where you're just pressing buttons until you see something and then you react. Whereas with Dark
I guess,
Souls,
yeah.
you have to be more anticipation,
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
you
I
have
get
to
with
wait
that.
for their animation to start, and then you understand how their animation will finish. Once you've seen the animation start, then you can start doing what you're going to do. If you try to do your thing while they haven't started doing their thing, then they will absolutely take advantage of your stoppage. Yeah, it's like the difference between hack and slash versus Soulsy. Yep, exactly what we're talking about. Or character action games versus Soulsy is really more what I was talking about there, like Devil May Cry and God of War and stuff like that. The big difference between them.
Yeah, just trying to think of a better name than discipline, because I think that really what boils down to the difficulty as well. That it's not that the game's harder; it just requires a discipline to it. And if you have that discipline to the fighting in the game, it's not really too much difficult for actual fighting, rather than being able to get through the challenges that the bosses are giving you. And then that's what more the game is overcoming the challenges that it presents you, rather than it just being like a raw difficulty wall.
Mm-hmm. Riftkick said counter combat.
And I would say that is much more like a Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed I would define as counter combat.
Also, that's one way of approaching the game. There's so much more to a Souls-like than just that. That's my favorite way to play the game. That's why you see that when I play it. But that's only one way to do it. Also, that's the best way to do it when you're doing fists.
I tend to take the, right, I've got a big sword, I'm going to go flatten that thing approach. Which is how I very much not that.
That's how I did my first Bloodborne run with Ludwig's. That was fun. I only ended up changing to Cleaver on or
So looking at
I
other
the
words,
speed.
I'm just gonna start saying random things and maybe something will stick.
Yeah.
But
I like
controlled combat, strict combat, not too great. Not regimented. Authority. Yeah, it's because I like the feel that disciplined combat gives me, but I don't like calling it disciplined. I don't like the other connotations of the word discipline comes with it, because it feels more like you're going to have to be like drilled, or there's a coach or something like that, right? It's not like you're joining the military and they're like discipline makes it seem like it's just like one way to do things, where in results there's many ways. So it's kind of like
there's many ways to do things, but in every single one of them, you still have to watch their animation and respond accordingly. Even with the spells, you can't just run in and cast your spell, or they'll just be like, that'll be the end of you, squishy little caster.
Fair is definitely core to these Souls games, but there's a bunch of games that are similar enough that share these three attributes that we're talking about right now, being player skill, stamina management, and action commitment, that are not fair. The enemies don't play by the same rules as you do.
Yeah.
Method.
Yeah, we're trying to make a broader one. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm trying to think.
Like, I think Fallen Order is a prime example of that, where you play by different rules than the enemy.
Yep.
Technique combat?
It doesn't have stamina management either, though, so it still would end up in
action.
It's more in Sekiro's world.
Yeah.
Technical combat, action combat?
I'm not sure if that's the word technical is too broad. It's like it's in between form and discipline is where we're falling in right now. It's like you need to have proper form when fighting. You need to know what you're supposed to be doing, and you need to do it well. And then you also need to be disciplined to do certain things given certain animation states. So it's somewhere in between, like having proper form and being disciplined to do the right thing. But neither of those words kind of fit. But it's somewhere in between that.
Focused action combat.
Yeah, focus is it's
It's true, but it has sort of a different connotation.
Yeah.
When
English is
used as
hard.
a genre.
Yep. I just got to keep the words flowing so that we keep rolling.
Yeah. English is hard. I feel like we get limited.
Fuck it, Souls like. I don't know. I think Soulsy, like Soulsy action,
still covers it. Like the only problem with that is then it gets so reused. Not articulate. Articulate.
It is. Right now, what we call it is Souls-like combat. Is literally what we call basically the genre, and there's got to be better than that.
It's this combination of things is such that Souls really was the first one to kind of bring it to the forefront.
Oh, it absolutely was. It was the first one to ever do that combination of things, I think, period. If not the first large-scale popular one.
Well, yeah, it's just like iPod versus MP3 player, right? Like, there were tons of MP3 players before iPods, but iPods made it cool.
Or Nintendo in any game system ever to 90.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I like the game you picked too, Snow Penguin. I'll do my best. I'm sure I'll enjoy it on stream. If you're not trying to torture me, I'm sure I'll enjoy it on stream. I love playing games with y'all.
LOK, are you saying Legacy of Kain?
Legends of Kesmai. It was it was an early MMO he played.
Neat.
You feel about
I still
mastery,
like
action mastery system. I think the word mastery is too broad, but
I still like the leaning into the descriptor that most people would use for Souls-like combat being weighty, like leaning into that. Which is why I initially proposed heavy action, but that can also have the connotation of, it just has a lot of action.
Wade action combat?
Like dense.
Almost.
I feel like invent a new word.
MMOs? You don't know the word MMO, Snow Penguin? Is that or you just don't play them?
I am envious of your cake.
I'm always envious of cake. I love cake. Intentional action combat, yeah.
It's not sturdy.
It is very intentional.
Early?
I just think that would be a terrible genre.
Yeah, opposed to intentional action.
I was an MMO god. I lived in MMOs, but I couldn't play them just following people. I always lose interest. I've got to be the leader when I play. I love being a raid leader. I love being a guild leader. I love recruiting and organizing and forming teams and commanding in combat situations. That there's no rush quite like it.
Calculated action games?
I like
think
that.
Kind of close.
The word determined came up to me, but I think calculated fits better than determined. Not substantial.
I think I like calculated. But
Yeah,
I'm
I think
also
calculated is...
we're also all like mathy developer people, so
tallied combat.
No. Given due consideration.
Combat Express.
Express combat design.
I do like I like calculated, but then it makes it feel like it's...
I like intentional.
Intentional is very good. that is very much like the core of the idea that we're trying to get across, that you need to be intentional with all of these things.
Intentional action combat.
What about concentrated action? Concentrated combat.
Concentrated could also mean condensed.
Yeah, I was just thinking juice boxes. Concentrated action. As soon as I said it,
Give me that juice box combat.
Yeah. That's what concentrate means to me, and it's like I love some of the words that come up for me. Knuckle down. Call it knuckle down combat. I want to knuckle down.
That makes me think Streets of Rage.
There was a new one of those.
There is a new
by
one.
the
We
way.
should get it and play it on stream. It's 4-player online. We could me and
I
you
think I
could
have
play
it.
it, and we could invite to anybody else who wants to play it to join us and do 4-player on stream. I like beat 'em ups with multiple people. That's fun. I could never sit down and play a beat 'em up by myself, but with a few
A
buddies.
lot more fun with friends.
Oh yeah. Knuckles, I think of Sonic. Sonic action combat.
Ugh.
Oh damn. It's almost 6. We gotta give some
Yep.
games away.
Oh yeah, it's time for free games.
You guys keep working on this while I give away games. How's that work?
Sounds good. I'm going down weird rabbit holes now. This feels like a Wikipedia game.
Did you update the games giveaway list with the additions from Pseudo Deus?
I have not yet. I can do that right now, since I'm literally looking at the list of them. How good is F1 2019?
I don't know how good the actual game is, but I know that it's actually a really good engine and it's very balanced CPU versus GPU usage.
I won't put that one on the list.
That's fair.
Since I'm gonna be borrowing Pseudo's wheel, that sounds like a good thing to play with the wheel. Fun. We'll still expand the games though. There's some good ones in there. Death's Gambit, Dirt Rally, Hitman 2. There's some solid picks there. Names are all right here. I gotta pack away some typing.
Do you already own Death's Gambit, Pseudo? Is that why you're giving this away?
I should.
Because if that is not the case, you should totally redeem that key. That's a really good game.
I should already have it. I think most of those lists are the ones that I could just give up. That shouldn't be a problem. It's for the stream anyways. I'd like to see someone from the chat get it.
For
Awesome.
the stream.
Thank you, Pseudo. Scholar and a gentleman, sir. Scholar and a gentleman.
I'm getting to the point now where I'm just thinking of like how fun it would be to do little game jams of just like you type in a genre into Thesaurus and then just click 4 or 5 random things and then that's what you have to make now. I started off with whatever I started off with, and what it's suggesting to me now is good vibrations. And it's like, how do you make a game with good vibes combat,
I'm in.
or a cup of tea combat?
Let's do a game design jam sometime that way. We'll
Yeah,
design a
sure.
little game, something simple for somebody or a small team to build using a bunch of thesaurus generated terms.
Yeah, maybe just scope them down to like half an hour time box, do 4 of them.
Yep. And we do have a topic already for next week. So we can talk a little bit about our topic for next week while I type this and while you guys still crunch away on your ideas there. And that is bonus stages. I'm looking forward to that one.
This is one that I'm looking forward to because I don't have a lot of input for it, actually. I want to hear more from the community. I haven't played a lot of games that have bonus stages.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Go ahead.
it's definitely something that was That hasn't been used too much frequently, but was definitely something that was in a lot of the older games, a lot of like older series that would have, bonus levels and like gated and locked content that needs to be kind of unlocked, or even so much as just like a lot of the bonus content shouldn't even just be like codes you unlock, things you find from just online, or even just entire levels. It's something I don't see too much anymore, but I do remember enjoying them. Even things like bonus content that sticks out the most to me at first would be Tony Hawk games, since they're remaking them, and I'm very stoked for that.
Oh, dude, that's gonna be so sick! I can't wait for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. That's gonna be so good.
I am so stoked.
Oh, hey.
But it's like, yeah, because they had a lot of bonus
track
content for their characters. I don't know if they had bonus stages themselves. I think most stages you just unlock for the progression. But even just having like bonus content, it gave you something that was like to unlock before there was achievements. And I feel like now that's just kind of been waysided by achievements. Like, why would they put in the extra effort of you beat all the levels with 5-star, you get this thing, versus you beat all the levels in 5-star, and now we just give you like an achievement rather than, this special character. I think is it Spider-Man in the second one you can unlock by. I remember it's really hard to do. Quickly look this up while we're doing that. How to unlock Spider-Man. So I remember it's. I think he was. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't as hard as the other one, but you have to unlock by getting 100% in career mode with a created skater. So it's not something that's like easily done, and it requires some effort. But like that was before there was achievements, and that's one way you could show off back then. Was like,
I unlocked Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There was hey.
Are regulars winning games? Our regulars are winning games.
I like it when the regulars win.
Intentional execution is your best for the genre descriptor. Yeah, it definitely gets the point across, but it's not exactly catchy. Like an IEC action game.
We already gave away Super Hexagon, didn't we?
At least one copy, I think.
And I needed yours if I remember. Didn't I ask you for it?
I don't remember.
Pretty sure I did, because I'm pretty sure I gave it different.
Humble bundle. I still have a key for it.
Okay. You got yourself a copy of Super Hexagon, Snow Penguin. And the final name, another one. Hopefully we'll be able to track down. I think we'll be able to find them.
Yeah, this is going to bug me. I'm going to be stuck in this rabbit hole trying to find a word for this until it happens.
Which is actually, I hope she actually tries it, because it's a really, really cool game.
It is a really cool game.
A really, really, really cool game.
Oh, that's such a cool game.
Me too, yeah. So, in summary, we now know what Souls-like really is. We have a nice description. We have no name to give the genre yet, but we do understand Souls-like a little bit more. Intentional precision. Yeah.
Precision combat. I like it, but it's
surgical action combat?
But think about it in the context of somebody asks you, what kind of game is this? Oh, it's a surgical combat game, or it's a surgical.
Yeah, no, I know.
Game.
You're all of a sudden you're thinking of surgery. I get you. I was thinking surgical strike.
Precision action is a little bit more like it, but it makes it feel like it's going to be more reflex driven than anything else.
Yeah, which I guess, to be fair, it is fairly reflex.
It is kind of reflex driven. You're waiting for their action to start so you can respond to it. But there is a certain level of anticipation and knowledge so that you can also observation to respond to tells and stuff like that. Because there are usually tells beforehand.
That's all I got. All I got is weird noises.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
this is something that we'll come back with someday, being like, we did it, we got it, we found the word, but for the time being,
Yep. English is like that. I'm a pretty good wordsmithy guy. One day I'll be sitting there smoking one, and all of a sudden I'll be like, I've got the word, and I'll come in and put it in. Until then, at least we have a better idea of what Souls-like really is, what games are and aren't. Soapy combat.
Soapy combat. That one gets a clap.
I love Soapy. He's so OP.
so OP.
That's where the term soapy comes from. So OP.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That's how I got that name. 'Cause my character, every character I made was so OP, Pookie started calling them Soapy. Name stuck. All right. So, in honor of the SpaceX launch today, which was awesome. That was today, right? Saturday? Today?
Yeah, it
it
has
happened
been
today?
Saturday all day.
Okay, it happened earlier today. Yeah, I saw the video today. I'm like, I didn't just like miss this yesterday or something, right? This was today. Anyway, that was cool. So let's play some Kerbal later. First, I have to eat. So, thank you very much for joining us for the discussion. We had a ton of fun. We learned a bunch of stuff. We discovered a bunch of stuff. We even end up buying some games. So,
Oh, yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Thanks for hanging out all night. Afternoon. I'll be back. Not too long. I'm Deus.
I'm Pseudo.
And I'm Rage.
May all your shots be headshots.